Guys, how you all doing? Hope you're well. So today I thought I would come and do a palette roundup, hit or miss, is it worth it, whatever you want to call this. But I just thought I would talk about some palettes which I have got over the last few months, because I didn't want to really do an individual video for each of these and dedicate a video to them. I wanted to just sit down and quickly just tell you my thoughts on them and whether I think they're worth it or not. I got this idea from Emily Noel. I love her videos. I don't really understand why she doesn't have like a lot more subscribers. She did it more as a hit or miss and she ranked them from her least favorite to her most favorite. I don't think I'm gonna do it that way, but I am going to just talk about the palettes as I see. I've got a mixture of affordable and more higher end palettes here to talk about today. So the first palette I'm going to talk about, I actually recently did a I did a get ready with me on this palette, and it is the Burgundy Bar by Maybelline. This is the first time I ever used the Burgundy Bar in that video. This was the first time I ever used a Maybelline palette. I always heard some mixed reviews on them, so I was a bit cautious as to whether or not I wanted to really try them out myself. And I'm not gonna lie, the packaging itself really intrigued me with this particular palette because I love these kind of colors. I love the fact that it's like a burgundy wine kind of color. And then I saw the shades and I was just like, yes, these shades. You guys know I love my warm tones, even though I've got a green eye on today, but I do love my warm tones normally. So yeah, I was quite impressed with the shades in this. And then in the video I tried out this palette and I tried to create kind of like a more neutral type color range shade, I don't know. Now the first thing I noticed in this when I opened it up and tried to start using it for a transition shade was that I didn't see any mattes in this initially, but then I realized there are two mattes in this that you get here. You do get 12 eyeshadows in this. Personally for me, these are great matte shades, however I would love a matte transition in this, so I was thinking more something around like this kind of shade here to be a matte for transitioning or something like that. Then I realized that everything else had more of a sheen or shimmer to it, so yeah, I wasn't too keen on them because of that fact. Was I able to use it? Yes, and I was able to create a really good look, because what I realized when I actually used it was that some of these shades can actually be used for transitioning, because even though they have a sheen to them, they're not glittery for some of them, and actually the more you blend, the less of a sheen you get. For example, this was the shade I used in that video for my transition, and it does have a slight sheen to it, as you can probably see there, but I really enjoyed it as a transition shade. These shadows are quite soft, they are quite pigmented shadows as well. I was really impressed with them. I have no issues with this in terms of the formula. I hate to say this for drugstore, but I do really think that for drugstore these are really great eyeshadows. I've just swatched some of them there for you, and overall they're a really good palette. It is retailing for £11.99 I think in Boots, but to be honest you can always get like, I don't know, 3 for 2 or some kind of deal on like drugstore buys and stuff in stores, so always look out for them. Oh, it did come with a little brush, but in that video I kind of chucked the brush away and I don't know where it is right now, so I probably threw it in the bin. I don't really like the layout of the pans of this palette, but I thought it could be an issue trying to get an individual shadow and mixing it in with another shadow because it's quite close together. Apart from that, this is a really good palette, and yeah, I do definitely recommend it. Is it the best eyeshadow palette I've ever tried in my life? No, but it is a good palette to use. Okay, let's talk about this. This is the Kat Von D Alchemist palette. Now, funny story, I think I mentioned this in a haul video that I recently filmed. I kind of had fear of missing out with this one because when it first came out, I made sure I bought this, and then I got it and I was just looking at it for a few days and I was just like, do you really want this? And so I ended up returning it to store, but then I had a fear of missing out, guys. I'm gonna admit it, I did. And then I ended up going back, or was it online? I bought it online in Debenhams when it came back in stock, and I'm so glad I did. So this is it here. I don't know if you can see it very well. It's a triangular casing. It says A with Kat Von D's artwork on it. It's such a pretty palette. It's a cardboard packaging with a magnetized closing, as you can probably see there. But when you open it up, it comes with a mirror on the inside, and then it says Kat Von D on the side there, and it folds all the way back, which is great. And then you have these 4 powders on the inside there. I heard a lot of people talking about how much they didn't like this because the shape of the palette and the powder arrangement. Some people were like, this is just too awkward for them because they felt like it was a lot of wasted space, which I I kind of agree, but forgetting about the layout, if you can, there are 4 iridescent kind of powder shades in this. So you've got the shade Emerald, which is a green. You've got the shade Amethyst, which is an ultraviolet. You've got the shade Sapphire, which is a blue, and you've got the shade Opal, which is a pink. Now, I did do a review, very in-depth review on my blog, so I'll link that down below for you. So if you really want to read more about this palette, then you can. I love the concept of this. It's a highlighter palette. Okay, that's what it is. Any kind of highlighter you have, you can use it in the same way that you can use this. But I love the colors that she's chosen in this, because what Kat Von D says is that this is a multi-purpose palette. So you can use it as an eyeshadow palette, you can use it as a highlighter palette for your face, you can use it as a body highlight, you can use it for your lips, like a lip topper, inner corner highlight. You can use it for practically whatever it is that you want to use it for. It's great marketing, but just remember that if you don't have this, you're not missing out in that sense, that you can actually do this with other highlighters. So I've just quickly swatched them on my hat. Can you see that? The color arrangement in this is just second to none. It's just so beautiful. I love the finish of these. I love the colors of these. They're not too powdery. I mean, they do have a bit of kick up when you actually use them in the pan. The only 2 I've ever used as highlighters are the bottom 2, which is the ultraviolet and the opal shade. The other 2 I've tended to use more as inner corner highlights or eyeshadow toppers, like in the center of my eyes. It's not what I've used today, and I've enjoyed them. I've enjoyed them as they are. The pans are quite small. The palette itself is quite small. When you see it in like promo and things like that, so you might think, oh, this is quite a big palette, but it actually isn't. It's a great travel size palette. In the UK, this retails for I think £25. It is quite pricey for what it is. Let's go in with the shade Pink, the pink opal on top of the highlight I've got on today. Today's highlighter, I'm actually using one from Colourpop, one of their new ones, but let's go in with this. I don't know how well you can see it because I've already got highlighter on. And one thing I'll say with these is you really do not need a lot with these. I'm just gonna buff it out a bit. I already had a gold highlighter on underneath this, but yeah, you can definitely see the pink tone with this. It's just a great all-round option, but it is quite pricey, so definitely think about that. And it's quite small as well. Now this is from Marc Jacobs, and Marc Jacobs recently reformulated their eyeshadow palettes, and I do have one already, which I tend to use more, only tend to use one shade in that for my eyebrows. But I picked up this. This is the shade, this is the palette Provocative, and it's their iconic, Marc Jacobs iconic palette. I have been playing with it quite a bit. This definitely is a much better formula than his older palettes. Saying that, I have struggled a bit with this palette. Now these tend to feel more like a cream to powder kind of highlight. That's them swatched there. Can you see that? These are beautiful, beautiful shades. I wanted to kind of go away from my typical red, gold, warm tones, browns that I normally go for, and I thought, let me go for a pink, because I don't tend to use these kind of colors. The issue I have with this is that for some reason, I just don't see these blending very well, and I don't know why. Maybe it's me, I don't know. They're so creamy and they're so like soft and buttery. They do kick up a lot of kickback in the pan, but when I'm actually using them, it's not that I get patches or anything, it's just that they tend to, it's like they're blending away. That's what I've noticed with them. Beautiful shades. Like my favorite shade in this actually is this black here, because it has some like gold in it. Such a stunning black color, and I actually like putting this all over my lid with one of the highlight shades just placed in the center of it, and it's such a stunning look. I probably need to play around with it more, so I will use that in a get ready with me video so you can kind of see what I mean about it. Yeah, it's pricey. These are £35, I believe, so they are quite pricey, but it is Marc Jacobs, so I like it, but then I'm struggling with it, so I don't really know. I'm kind of two minds about it. I would say if you wanted this, definitely go in store and try it for yourself. Okay, the next palette I'm going to talk about is the Colourpop Yes Please palette. I think that's what it's called. Mine is all mucky. One of the things that I don't like about this palette is the packaging. I have already tried this out in a get ready with me video, and I think I kind of mentioned it to you before, and I have already written a very detailed blog post on this, so again you can check it down below. Now this retails for $16, I think, from the Colourpop website. First thing you see, obviously, these beautiful, bright, vibrant colors, But guys, can you see how messy my palette is? And that's simply because these are, number one, very pigmented eyeshadows. They are quite powdery eyeshadows, and because of the fallout, I get my palette looking like this. Unfortunately, it is a very messy palette, but it's a beautiful palette. So if you can forgive the mess, then we can talk about the rest of the shades in this. I really enjoyed it. I thought they blended really well. The shadow that I was quite disappointed with is this yellow shade here. I think it's called Mischief, because that's Mischief swatched. It's not as vibrant as you'd think it would be, but they do build up quite nicely. I do like the shimmer shades in this, but are they the best shimmers I've ever tried in my life? No. They're really, really nice, but they do feel a bit powdery. Like, this whole palette just feels powdery to me. I think that's my main issue with it. Like, I really, really like the colors in this. If you just go and check out the video I did on this, you can see I did create a really lovely look with this, and they do blend out really nicely. I think I was expecting a lot more from this, although, let me just say, this is only $16. So for the price that it is, it's quite a decent palette, and this color arrangement in this is beautiful. I'm not in love with it. I like it. This is the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette, and I think I included this in my current beauty favorites video, so if you've watched that, you already know my thoughts on this. But I really, really do love this palette. I love the whole concept of it. I love the idea. I love the packaging. I've used this so much that, do you know what? The words are already scratching off of it and stuff. It does come with a brush. My brush is actually over there, because I don't really like keeping the brushes in here because they just fall out. This is definitely a palette for people that love warm tones. I've mentioned this before to you. If you are a warm tone eyeshadow lover, you will love this. This is my favorite of all the Urban Decay palettes I've had. This is my favorite of all the naked palettes they've released. I'm not a fan of the naked palettes normally. This is the only one I've actually liked. The only thing that really brings this down is that you can't really create too many different types of looks with this. However, the looks that you create are going to be the same, whether they're the same in a matte format or whether they're the same in a shimmer format. They're going to be quite similar. You could kind of stick to the lighter shades on this side and create more of a neutral tone. You could stick to the warmer shades on this side and create more of a warm tone, or you could stick to the shades on this side and create more like smoky tones. So there's like three main kind of looks you can do with this, but I personally really like it. I think it's a great palette for I could use this every day. It's kind of like a foolproof palette. It's not really going to, I don't really see it being too difficult to work with. Are they the best shadows I've ever tried? Again, no, but they are gorgeous, gorgeous eyeshadows. The mattes in this blend quite nicely. I love the tones of the matte shades in this. Definitely a big thumbs up for me. I highly recommend it, only if you are someone that really enjoys a warm toned eyeshadow palette, because if you don't, it's not for you. I think it's, oh gosh, how much is this? $39.50, but I love it, so that's that. Now the last palette I'm going to talk about is one of the most controversial eyeshadow palettes I have ever heard of. Personally, I just think it's a bit ridiculous, the whole controversy. This is the Subculture palette. So yes, I did buy the Subculture palette. It is the palette I'm using today on my eyes. I purposely filmed a separate kind of not get ready with me, but a tutorial with this look. I didn't really talk in it, but I will try and play that somewhere. It's so controversial that I wanted to show you how I managed to make this work for me. I am one of those very few people that actually like this palette. I'm just gonna say it. I'm not the type of person to just say that I don't like something, or to not like something because everybody else has not liked it, or love something because everybody else has loved it. I'm sure people have had really bad experiences with this palette, but personally for me, I actually have enjoyed it. I don't know if that means I got a good palette or not, whatever, but I just have. This is what my palette looks like, and guys, I have used this palette at least 5 to 6 times. My eyeshadows aren't all over the place, and I used it today. And this is what it looks like. I thought initially I wasn't gonna like the palette because of the colors, but when I actually received the palette, I looked at the colors and I was like, do you know what? These are really stunning eyeshadow colors. It's not a kind of palette I would typically go for, and I'm glad I picked this up because I normally go for, like I said, the Naked Heat kind of colors, and I'm trying to step out of that. I'm trying to be different because I love to collect makeup and I review makeup. I can't always review the same type of eyeshadow palette over and over again, or the same type of colors over and over again. I'm not going to negate any issues that people have had with this particular palette, because I think that's wrong of me to do so, because if I'm being completely honest with you, I have experienced fallout with this palette. I have experienced kickback with this palette, but I've experienced kickback and fallout with other palettes as well. Have experienced the fact that these are quite soft powders. I knew that this was a softer formula, so I wasn't going to go in heavy with my palette, with my brush, and I literally just take the palette and I do like the slightest of dips like in the palette. So, you know, that's how I do it. And that's how I work with it. It works for me. There are only 2 shades in this I haven't used so far that I can't comment on. The shade Destiny and the shade Mercury. I've used all of the other shades in this palette. I find that I can blend these, and the shade Roxy was one shade that I know people really struggled with. I am using Roxy, I don't know if you can kind of see it today, but I am actually using Roxy, and you'll see it in my video, as my main transition shade, and that blended nice for me. Then on top of that I put All Star. Now what I will say, with a darker shade, so All Star, Rowdy, Axis, Fudge, they are more difficult to work with, and I have had experiences where I've been blending them and I found that they either get a bit patchy or they just didn't blend properly. But what I realized with those was that I needed to kind of be a bit more light-handed with them and go in really small and kind of build it up. If I just went in with the shade Axis and was like just going in with it, it won't work for me. I actually prefer to not put Untamed and Axis as any kind of crease shade, because I find them to get very muddy. So what I tend to do with these two is I put them as lid shades. Today I'm actually using Untamed as a lid shade, which means I'm just packing it on instead of blending it into my crease where it gets muddy. Yeah, and then I just put Electric in the center of my lid for this look, like kind of halo look that you can see. I'm not too keen on the shimmer shades in it, so the metallics. Cube, Electric and Adorn. The formula of these are a bit oily and they're quite difficult to pick up. Now the brush that I tend to use for these particular shades, if I can find it, I just use Morphe brushes. I'm not affiliated by Morphe, with Morphe, whatever. I'm just subscribed to their, what's that thing, the brush subscription that they have. But I tend to use the Morphe E18 brush for these shades. I find that if I didn't use a kind of pointy kind of brush like this, they're very difficult to pick up, or I would use my fingers. So this is the shade Cubed. It picks up with this brush, can you see that? And then if I use my finger, it does pick up as well, okay? And that's Cubed there, can you see that? So I can use this brush to pack it on, and I like to use this brush to pack it on onto my lid or into my inner corners because I really, really like it. The shade Electric is, again, similar to Cube, quite difficult to work with. I have got this all over my, like in my, the center of my lid today. Picked it up, and then with the brush, can you see that? I've kind of packed it on there. Now I can use this brush to pack it onto my inner corner, or I can use my fingers with Electric as well. And then the last shade, Adorn, I can actually use a denser brush with this one as well, but I'll just use the same brush just to demonstrate. Adorn is very oily. The color is beautiful, I just don't really like the formula of it, but you can kind of see it's like a bronzy gold tone. Those are the 3 metallic shimmer shades in this. Everything else is matte in this particular palette. The colors, yes, they're very, very pigmented. You really only need a little bit. I've just packed on the shade Untamed, which is this shade right here, using the brush on my hand. I'll just try the shade New Wave as well for you. See, packed it on with a brush and packed it on there. Can you see that? This is the shade Roxy that I'm going into. My battery just died on me. I was just showing you the shade Roxy, which I just went into with the brush. And again, packing it on, it goes on really, really, really nicely. And I'm just going to pack on the shade Edge for you. Okay, I have noticed what people mentioned about these colors. Is it oxidizing? Because yeah, I find that some of them actually do oxidize when I've actually used them. Fudge is definitely a shade that definitely gets darker. So I'm not sure how well you can see it, but you can kind of see where I've put Fudge on, layered it on top of its base right here. This is from the Subculture palette. And you can kind of see the lighter tone of Fudge as well. I'm only going to recommend this to you if you aren't fussed about what people are saying about it. If you want to try it for yourself, then go ahead, try it for yourself. Who's going to stop you? Like, no one's going to stop you. In terms of me recommending it as the best palette ever, I it's not, but I do enjoy it. So I think for me, I really enjoy the colors more than anything else in the palette, so that's why I'm keeping it. But I do know why people are struggling with it and why people are really disappointed with it, especially because I know Anastasia Beverly Hills marketed it as a sister palette to the Modern Renaissance palette, and I have the Modern Renaissance palette, which is a beautiful palette. I don't use it as often as a lot of other people do. Is it a sister to this? No, because this is quite new in the sense of the formulas, the color range, everything. So I don't really understand how this is a sister palette to it. So I think I've spoken enough about palettes today, so hopefully you really enjoyed that. I enjoyed making this video. Let me know if you like this kind of palette roundup or roundup video, and I can maybe do that with other products as well. Let me know if there are any other palettes you would like me to refer to in a palette roundup, and yes, I'll be happy to do so if I have it. Okay, thank you so much for watching, and yeah, please make sure you thumbs up this video, subscribe to my channel, share my videos as well. I'd be so grateful if you could do that. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Take care, see you soon, bye.